After World War II ended in 1945, the world felt different. People started to see strange things in the skies above them. These objects moved in unusual ways. Some people began to call them flying saucers because of their shape. This was a new and exciting mystery. Many individuals were very curious. Some were also a little bit worried about these unknown aerial phenomena. They wondered what these objects could possibly be and where they might have come from. On June 24, 1947, a private pilot named Kenneth Arnold reported a very unusual sighting. He was flying his small airplane near Mount Rainier in Washington state. He said he saw 9 shiny objects. They flew very fast, like saucers skipping on water. His story appeared in newspapers all across the country and even internationally. After Mr. Arnold's report, many more people began to share their own stories. They too had seen strange things flying in the sky over their towns and cities. The United States military, especially the Air Force, became concerned. These were the early years of the Cold War. Tensions were high between the United States and the Soviet Union. Military leaders worried that these unidentified flying objects could be a new type of secret weapon. Perhaps they were advanced aircraft from another country. This was a serious matter for national security. The military knew they needed to investigate these reports carefully and find out the truth about these sightings. Because of these growing concerns, the Air Force started its first official study. This was called Project Sign, and it began in late 1947. The main goal of Project Sign was to collect and look at all the reports of flying saucers. The team wanted to figure out what these objects were. Some people working on Project Sign wrote a secret document. This document suggested that the objects might be spacecraft from another planet, truly extraterrestrial. However, high-ranking Air Force generals did not accept this idea. The document was reportedly suppressed, and the official position remained cautious. Following Project Sign, the Air Force created Project Grudge in early 1949. Project Grudge had a different feel. It seemed more focused on explaining away UFO reports as common things. Its aim appeared to be to reduce public concern about flying saucers. However, in 1952, there was a very large wave of UFO sightings across the United States. This new surge in reports made the Air Force rethink its approach. They decided a more organized and scientific study was needed. So, in March 1952, Project Blue Book was officially established to take over the investigation of UFOs. Project Blue Book was headquartered at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. This base was a major center for Air Force research and intelligence. Project Blue Book had 2 main official objectives. The first objective was to determine if UFOs posed any kind of threat to the national security of the United States. This was always a primary concern for the military. The second objective was to collect, analyze, and scientifically evaluate all data related to UFO sightings. They hoped to find logical explanations for the phenomena being reported by citizens and military personnel. Captain Edward J. Ruppelt was chosen as the first director of Project Blue Book. He was an experienced Air Force officer. He had served as a bombardier during World War II and had received decorations for his service. Captain Ruppelt wanted to make the UFO investigation more systematic and professional. He introduced standardized questionnaires for witnesses to fill out. This helped to gather information in a consistent way. He also worked to improve the quality of the investigations and the analysis of the data that was collected from various sources. Captain Ruppelt is also known for coining the term UFO, which stands for Unidentified Flying Object. He believed the term flying saucer sounded too sensational and not serious enough for a scientific study. He preferred UFO as a more neutral and accurate description. In the early days of Project Blue Book, Captain Ruppelt seemed open-minded about the possibility of truly unexplained phenomena. However, he later expressed frustration with the limitations and pressures he faced. He left the project in 1953 and later wrote a book titled The Report on Unidentified Flying Objects, detailing his experiences. Project Blue Book developed a specific process for handling UFO reports. The first step was always to collect the information. Reports came in from many different sources. Ordinary citizens would write letters or make phone calls. Commercial airline pilots and military pilots would submit official reports if they encountered something unusual while flying. Air Force bases and radar stations also sent in data about unexplained aerial contacts. All these diverse pieces of information were gathered at the Project Blue Book office for review and further action. Once a report was received, the investigators at Project Blue Book would begin their work. For significant cases, this could involve interviewing the primary witnesses. Investigators would ask detailed questions about the sighting. They wanted to know the exact date, time, and location. They would inquire about the object's apparent size, shape, color, sound, and how it moved through the sky. They also asked about weather conditions and the witness's background. The goal was to get as much factual information as possible to help understand what was observed by the witness. If photographs or motion picture film existed, the Blue Book team would analyze them. They would look for signs of fakery or misidentification of common objects. Physical evidence, such as alleged fragments of a UFO, was extremely rare. When such material was reported, attempts were made to analyze it. The investigators tried to determine if the evidence was genuine and what its composition might be. The project also maintained a list of common objects that were often mistaken for UFOs, such as weather balloons, satellites, stars, and conventional aircraft under unusual lighting conditions. To help with their analysis, Project Blue Book staff often consulted with outside experts. They might send sighting details to astronomers to check if a bright star or planet could have been the cause. Meteorologists were consulted about unusual weather phenomena like temperature inversions or ice crystals that could create optical illusions. Psychologists were sometimes consulted about the reliability of witness testimony. After gathering all available information and expert opinions, the Blue Book team would try to categorize the sighting. They would label it as identified if they found a conventional explanation, or unidentified if no such explanation could be determined. Section 4. High-profile encounters. The Washington Nationals and Levelland cases. Some UFO cases investigated by Project Blue Book became particularly famous and generated widespread public interest. One of the most notable series of events occurred over Washington, D.C. during 2 weekends in July 1952. On the nights of July 1920th and July 26th to 27th, radar operators at Washington National Airport, now Reagan National Airport, and Andrews Air Force Base detected multiple unidentified targets. These objects were moving in unusual ways over restricted airspace. At the same time, pilots and some ground observers reported seeing strange lights in the sky corresponding to the radar contact. The Air Force scrambled F-94 Starfire jet interceptors to investigate the mysterious radar blips and visual sightings over the nation's capital. Reports from the time indicate that when the jets approached the areas where the objects were detected, the targets would often disappear from radar screens or visually evade the aircraft. Then, when the jets moved away or had to refuel, the strange objects would reappear. The incidents caused significant public concern and media attention. The Air Force held a large press conference where Major General John Samford attributed the radar returns to temperature inversions, a weather phenomenon that can bend radar signals. Another significant case occurred on the night of November 2nd, 3rd, 1957, in and around the small town of Levelland, Texas. Over a period of about 2.5 hours, at least 15 different people, including local police officers, reported seeing a large, bright, egg-shaped object. Many witnesses claimed that as the object approached